And we'll see a lot of people with just one thing in their minds, one intention, which is just to get with someone quite often. There'll be a small percentage that are there just to have a nice time and fun. But whether we like it or not, the environment we've entered ourselves in will have an effect on us, no matter how hard we try, unless you're a Maburk, someone that's conquered their senses. And I can't imagine any Maburk going to Broad Street. If you see any, let me know. There's probably a problem there. So the other thing is, a lot of people will say, well, I like dancing. I've got no problems with dancing. Even Bhangra itself, the act of dancing, this is in live stream, so I don't want Mandeep Singh to be shut down after this. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually very good cardio, right? The problem is what's associated with it. Now, if you're just dancing for sports, that's fine, right? I'm not going to make a case against that. But with Bhangra and within clubs, what's normally associated with dancing quite often, and I know this because I was in this situation myself, people would only go and dance once they've had a drink or two, because they need that confidence, and then that's not even a true reflection of who they actually are, if that makes sense. With the Bhangra scene, it's very important to be careful. There are some Bhangra tracks I used to listen to that actually had a lot of meaning in them. Now, quite often, it's things like that. So if you're going to a Bhangra scene, and inadvertently you're surrounding yourself with those kind of songs, and the people that are in tune with those kind of songs, then that will have an effect on you as well. Now, does anyone know what album cover that's from? No one's going to say, because it's embarrassing if you know now. Come on, anyone know? It's Diljit, very, very early on. Okay, to be honest, if you know it, you probably won't want to admit it. It's Luck 28. Yeah? We're all laughing. So to translate, the main song, I'm maaf karna for saying this in a Guru Karya, but just to explain, the song is Luck 28 Kurida, wait something Kurida. What is it, 47 or something, right? Yeah, it's a really annoying, catchy tune. Yeah, proper annoying. And I grew up like not knowing what it meant. This came out when I was quite young, and I was like, oh, the beat sounds great. This is wicked, right? And I'd be on weddings, dance floors, notching topping to this, right? There's no we need translations in Bhangra halls so people know what they're dancing to, right? But listen to the definition of what Diljit's flaring and dancing about. It's that the girl's waist is really thin and she's really skinny. That's what the whole song's about. Diljit's done other things now, but we can't deny the fact that if you think about most Bhangra tunes, they're about women, or they're about shooting someone, or they're about how much money people have, or what kind of gaddiyan people have. Now, if you're going into a Bhangra setting where the songs are about that, then if you understand the Punjabi, what's happening is you've normalized that thought in your mind, that that's fine, because everyone's doing it. And what's quite sickening is the girls have normalized that as well, if that makes sense. So subconsciously, it has a deep-rooted effect on you. Because then when you go to a dance hall, and I've seen this because I've grown up in it, when you go to the Sunday after the Gurdwara and everyone's tearing up on the dance floor, then these songs are coming on, and then you have Chache dancing with their nieces to these kind of songs. It's sickening. But this is the level of our surti, this is the level of our consciousness that we're just totally blind to it. And actually we're numb to it. So that's why I probably come across a bit paranoid. But I'd argue I'm not paranoid. I'm just thinking that most of us don't actually think about the repercussions of entering these spaces. And then you bring your children into that setting. And then they're watching Bhangra films. And then they're looking at that girl with those definitions and the way she's dressed. And now you've normalized that for her. Do you see the knock-on effect it has? It's quite scary, right? And it's quite deep thought. And just on a side note to this, the Indian media loves this narrative of us. Of you guys are wicked dancers, you guys love to drink. If you look at every main Bollywood movie, what act does a Sikh have? He's a Kuggi or someone else. Someone that's low IQ, someone that only knows Punjabi because he's dumb. And as a result, he's just a joker. And someone that drinks a lot. or someone that does really good Bhangra. That's what, and they've intentionally done it very cleverly. And I actually commend the fact that they've pulled it off. Because what they've done now, and even if you look at PTC Punjabi, I'm going on a tangent here, yeah? This is Mandeep Singh full rant mode. If you look at PTC Punjabi, who knows on PTC Punjabi, so straight after Rara Sahib, what competition comes on? Does anyone know?
Is it a kids singing competition?
There's a singing one and there's a Bhangra one. That's the PTC straight after Rara Sahib from Harbandar Sahib. There's nothing about Gurbani Kant. There's nothing about who's doing Gatka. There's nothing. Because they want us to think the cool thing and the good thing is get your kids into Bhangra. Now again, I'm not having a rant to anyone that enjoys Bhangra, yeah? I'm just making you aware of the things that I went through. And from a Sikhi lens, we should be aware of. Now, if that's your aim, and that's what you're hearing at university, and that's what your family's doing, and then even on the religious channels there's that happening, then you're going to think there's no room for anything else. So there's quite a big game at play, especially with the Bollywood scene as well. Any thoughts so far from anyone? It'd be good to hear any other people's comments or questions if anyone has any along the way. Please feel free to jump in. So, for those reasons, and the main reason is the effect it will have on you and the spaces you'll be in, I would argue quite clearly that Sikhi says, not only stay away from clubbing, but anything that's going to compromise your own situation, not just clubbing, but if you're going out with friends that really shouldn't be, even if you're going bowling, and I appreciate, like in speech, these things are easy to say. I appreciate in the real world, there's complexities, but we have to think about what the ideal is so that we can work towards it, right? Now, in terms of peer pressure, this is something that I went through. In the Sikh society, I was the president, and there were other members of my Sikh society, Gursikhs, that were saying, come on, man, like, sare challe hain, la asi kare utthe je ki sharab peeni hai. And I actually kind of felt like the outcast. I felt like, yo, I'm a bit of an extremist. Man, vadu kam kar liya. And I was like, they're just going to go chill. And they're like, we're not even going to dance. We're just going to chill for a bit. We're going to go to the pre-drinks, so to Chakanani, so at Flanna's house. And then we'll just come home like, bill what are we going to do? But chalo, mara kirpa, there were a few people on the same wavelength and we didn't go. But again, if we're of that mindset, then we're disagreeing with Bhai Gurdas Ji's var. That we're not going to get affected by these things because we think we're in control. We're clearly not. Only a true Mahapurush, a true Brahmagyan, a true Guru Sikh that's connected is controlled everything. Until then, we're all susceptible at any point. And there's even famous Sakhi, just to really hit home on the idea that we're all susceptible. There's a famous Sakhi, some of you may know at the time of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, of Bhai Joga Singh. Now, Bhai Joga Singh was a close companion of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and it was the day of his marriage. And his lava was about to happen, and Guru Sahib ne sneha bhejta, he sent a message for Bhai Joga Singh to come to Anandapur Sahib, come and meet me. And the message got to him whilst his lava was about to happen, or even in the midst of his lava. And as soon as he heard the message, he left his wedding. In the midst of his lava, he went. And as he's leaving, he thought, yo, I'm a gangster. I left my wedding for Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And he started getting big-headed. Now again, this is a great Gursikh of the time. Someone that had a lot of sangat of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Not us random people from Hamzathuro Smethwick, right? What happens is, as he's on his way to Anandapur Sahib, he passes a house, a brothel, a house of prostitutes. And because that ego, that seed of ego had fully fledged into a tree now, he's lost track of actually who he is. And he's fallen. And he makes an attempt to actually go into that house, the house of that prostitute. But as he approaches, there's a huge Singh outside, walking up and down. He thought, "Je Singh ne mainu pehchan liya, besti hoye nahi. I can't let the Singh see me go into this house. That's going to be embarrassing." He goes, "I'll come back later." He tried 3 or 4 times, and he's like, "I'm not, like, it's too hot for me. I'm not going to go in." And then he goes to Anandapur Sahib, and he sees Guru Sahib, And Guru Sahib the akhan lal huiyan. Guru Sahib's eyes are red. And they said, Guru Sahib, Fateh Blake said, Guru Ji, akhan lal huiyan ki galla, what's the situation? And then at that point, Guru Sahib ne kya, Joga Singh, there was a Singh of mine, a Sikh of mine, wo mare karam karan laga si. Main onu bachaya. And at that point, I realized that Guru Gobind Singh is actually protecting him, doing peradari di seva. So point being is, even someone of that stature could have slipped, but he was very lucky that he had the protection of the Guru. So let alone, with all due respect, first year uni students thinking they've conquered their senses. They haven't. And anyone that's telling you have, that's a lie. And it's quite important that we're clear about that and unapologetic about that, because the world tells us that you are your own boss. You are the person that controls your own destiny. You can do anything. We can't. That's why we have a Guru. And I've seen people at university that have gone into these places with good intentions and slipped up. I've personally seen, I'm sure many of you have seen people as well, that by year one, it's the innocent freshers fairs with the Punjabi society because I want to meet friends. But then the friends you meet are used to that on a weekly basis. Then it turns into, oh, I'm drinking just for a social reason. Then it turns into drugs, or then it turns into relationships that go sour, and it spirals out of control. Because when we're starting, in the inception, we don't think about where this could lead potentially. We just think it's going to be a small thing and we'll walk away. Just like smokers, they never smoke to try and get addicted, right? Of course they don't. Vaj pata lagda. And that's what Guru Sahib's illustrating to us through these panktiyan. So when it comes to peer pressure of university, you have to make a choice. And what I would say is to any new uni student, and second or third year uni students will 100% back me on this, is that freshers period is very, very short-lived. And the people you meet in your first month, half of them you probably never see again. Is that a fair comment? You never see them again. So the people you're trying to impress within that first month are probably going to have no impact on your later life. So it's really important who you put first. Do you put yourself first, or do you put the thoughts of other people first in terms of trying to fit with them? And it might be that, you know what, your first freshers week, whilst everyone else is going out and putting things on Insta stories, you're not quite as busy. But we're here to play the long game and not compromise ourselves, because life's difficult as it is. So in terms of having some support at university, definitely get involved in your Sikh societies. Because Guru Kirpa, there should be some people on the same wavelength. And Sikh societies, I know there's a lot of Sikh societies in this room. There will be a lot of events that they'll be putting on, normally a bowling, normally a meal, normally a meet and greet. So the Guru Sahib's Kirpa now, most universities will have a Sikh society. But if there's a Sikh society you can't really connect with, then try and find a local Gurdwara. Obviously big places like Southall, Birmingham, main cities, they'll all have something going on. So try and find an alternative. Because otherwise it is lonely, no one wants to be sitting in the student halls on their own in the first week, right? 100%, me included. So try and find those other outlets so that you don't feel you have to succumb to what everyone else is doing. Because normally, the reason people go is just because they don't want to be left out, which is a difficult situation to be in. And as I've mentioned, we want to really think about the environments we're going and what that's going to do to our Sikhi. Sikhi is hard as it is, but definitely fun and definitely worthwhile. And I'll share a quick story with you, a personal one. Sorry if you've heard this before. You'll realize that my stories are just recycled in different places. But the story is about me actually going clubbing. And I thought, because all my friends were like, come man, like whatever. And at the point we were about 16, so I had my cousin's fake ID, one of those ones, right? With my Fellaini hair, trying to hold it down. And at that point, in my head, I know it sounds quite bad, but I did ask Guru Sahib, say, Guru Sahib, if you don't want me to go, like, show me something. Like, make it clear to me that I shouldn't be doing this. That was the wrong thing to ask for. But even those, you can ask Guru Sahib, right? And what happened was we went, and I remember the Marriott Hotel, actually, on Broad Street, where the Costa is. and there were people drinking. I didn't drink at that point, so I went in that mindset. I'm going to just have a good time with my friends. I'm just going to go chill, whatever. I had been clubbing a few times before that whilst drinking, by the way. So kind of on the kind of end bit of it, if you like. And then what happened was, as we were going, there was a bunch of friends, and one of the friends had brought a friend. Tika? So I'm going to call him person A. Person A had never really drank before, and his friends egged him on because it was his first time as a bit of an initiation. He got mashed. He got mashed up. He was off his face. And the friend that bought person A, Bachara didn't even look out for him. Because he was too busy trying to make a fool of him to impress everyone else. Which is what happens in these environments, which is quite sad. And what I mentioned before. So what happened was person A was out of it. We were walking to the club. And person A even falls on the floor, cracks his expensive watch, and Mussy huddles to the club, and we're in the line to the club, and I'm already feeling uneasy about the whole thing. I'm thinking, Bachara, no one cares about this guy, but I'd never met person A in my life. I don't know who he is. And then at that point, we're in the queue to get into the club, and on Broad Street, there's alleyways by a lot of the clubs, like galiyan, side roads, and we're looking for person A, and person A is lying on the gand of an alley, and he's just puked all over himself. He's done ulti everywhere, all over him. And me and another friend go to see him, and we don't know who this guy is, by the way. We've never met him before. And we're like, bro, you okay? He can't even speak. He's just literally like this in his own ulti. So we go and get person A's friend, and we're like, bro, like, sort your guy out, man. He's mashed. Get him a taxi home or whatever. And what the guy replies to me just summed it all up. He says, F him. He should have looked after himself. I'm here for a good time. So he didn't want to give up his line in the queue to look after his friend. I just swat him basically, and then went to go out the guy. Because like, what kind of a friend are you? What kind of a person are you, generally speaking? So then in my mind, I was like just annoyed at this point. So we went over. What happened was, we cleaned him up the best we could. We got him some pani, and then we had to like carry him, me and my other friend, and we got him into a taxi. But my mind was still on, I actually want to go into the club. I want to go into the club. So I down udhar si. So what happens is we put him into a taxi, must he get his address out of him, give the taxi guy like £40, which is a lot of money back then. It was my pocket money for like 3 weeks, right? Been saving. I was booked out at school for that 40 money, yeah. Because I was in sixth form, right? I didn't have that kind of money. And at that point, then he drove off. And then me and my friend looked at each other like, crap, we've left him on his own. So then we ran down Broad Street trying to chase the cab. And he's gone. And then we thought, he'll drop him off, whatever. What happens is at that point, I'm just annoyed, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going home. Maharaj dikhata, it's all right. Message was really loud and clear. I go home, and it's like 1 a.m. At 4 a.m., whilst I'm sleeping, I get a phone call. And it's his sister, person A's sister, and she's swearing at me at the phone. And I'm like, Galiki hoya, like, I'm still half awake, trying to wake up, thinking, what's going on? And she's like, where's my brother? Where's my brother? And I'm like, I don't know who your brother is. Who are you? And she's like, my brother's person A. And I'm like, oh my God, like he's gone missing. And now I'm panicking, and I'm about to get ready. We're about to like literally start walking the streets to try and find this guy. And she's like, you sent him home in a taxi on his own. You're liable for him. And I'm thinking, your banda's going to prison. I'm finished. I'm thinking like Crime Watch, Panorama, everything, right? I'm thinking, I'm Magyar, hana? University bond, job bond, the life bond, everything bond, right? And then I'm panicking. I ring the other guy, and we're like, she's like, the taxi driver didn't drop him off home. I'm like, man, maybe he's abducted him, maybe he's died. I don't know what's happened, because the guy literally, he was choking on his own sick, which is very bad for anyone that's dealt with drunks. You have to put them on their side, right? Otherwise they can choke on their own sick. And I'm thinking, man, this is bad. And then as I'm about to leave the door, luckily, we get a phone call from the sister, and she's still swearing at me, by the way, not realizing that I actually helped him or tried to help him. And she's like, we found him. He was left by Broad Street on a curbside. So the taxi driver got off Broad Street and just dashed him on the floor. I was like, Maharaj, sonly got message received loud and clear. So that's my personal situation. And for any of you that are thinking, should I do this, should I do that? I would argue the same thing. I would say, Maranu pochalo. And Maharaj will give you a sign if they want you to go there or not. And after that, I was like, okay, never again. If that's what these environments entail, I do not want to be anywhere near that. So, just something to add to that before we move on. A Gursikh, when I was asking someone about, should we go here to eat? Should I go to this place to eat? What if there's meat there? What if there's sharab there? And he gave me a very good idea as to how to manage these. And this will be different for all of us. Your level of suchum or where you want to interact, that's very different. Now, I'm not trying to push anything on anyone here. But he said something to me, he goes, if you're questioning it, that's your answer. If you're thinking that, should I, that in itself is your answer to say you're worried about it, you shouldn't. If that doesn't come on your radar, then go. If it does, then that in itself is probably a prominent enough sign. And I thought that was really interesting. It's helped me navigate things as well. What does Gurbani say? Gurbani says that Mere Mohan Saravani Ehe na sunaye Saakat Geet. So Mere Mohan, oh my beloved, speaking to WhyGuru. Guru Arjan Dev Ji has given us this shabad so that we know what we should be asking for. And they Saravani Ehe na sunaye. Don't tsunami this thing. Don't make me listen to this thing. Saakat Geet. Saakat is a faithless person. Someone that doesn't believe in what God, and someone that's in the wrong path. Saakat Geet, don't let me listen to the Geet, the song of that person. That person that is just waffling and is just babbling useless things, don't let me listen to that. And a few things come to mind when we think about this. In terms of Nindya, some people speaking badly of other people. Nindya is one of the top 3, if you like, paps. It said that Nindya would destroy years and janams of bhakti. So even within Gurdwara, we have Nindya. Not just in places on the outside, even within sangat or even within Sikhi circles, there's jealousy, there's irkha. Not everywhere, but it doesn't mean people are immune, right? Just because they've taken amrit or whatever. So it's very important to remember that Nindya is something that will poison us from the inside, hearing bad things about other people. That's not to be confused with feedback or disagreeing. If you've got feedback for someone, you tell them because you have their best interest and you want the best for them. Nindya is just talking behind someone's back with no interest to help them. So it's important that we don't feel we can't disagree with people, because some people get that mixed up. And then Saakat Geet, I would also extend that to the songs of people that are faithless themselves. Think about all the rappers. If anyone's following the news, you'll know what the halat of rappers is now. Even an influencer today, I found out, is on rape allegations, people that children look up to. Someone's face who's plastered all over the media. So if they're not in that category, then we don't really want to listen too much what they're saying, because it's useless, as Guru Sahib says. And then what does Bhagat Kabir Ji says within Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj? Kabir Saakat Sang na kijiye, dur hai jaiye paag. So a Saakat, someone that is faithless, someone that doesn't have faith within Guru Sahib, within WhyGuru. And generally you can say Dharmi people, righteous people. Bhagat Kabir Ji quite simply says, Bhaj jao na to. Run as far away as you can from those people, because they're going to have no positive effect on you. Basan karo parsiya tao ka chala gaya daag. And very similar to what I mentioned earlier, that if you go into a place, jithe ganda aya, daag ta lagna hi lagna, no matter how careful you might think you are. And some people might find this harsh. I just find it logical. And you've all been in a room where there's been a heated argument. You don't need to look at anyone or speak to anyone. You up feel that energy. Now imagine that ramped up to a level 100, where you're going to environments where there are things that our Guru has told us to stay very clearly away from. Udag ta lagna hi lagna. Any thoughts so far? Any questions? Benji? Yeah, good question. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, so Benji asked what's the difference between Nindya and venting. Depends if your venting is in India. If you're venting about something, I'm trying to think of an example, to get it off your chest with no malice in it, you just need to speak to someone about it. I would say probably argue it's not in India. For example, if you had a bad day at work, there's two ways of describing a bad day at work, right? Come home and I say to my wife, oh man, work was really tough today. Man, I faced a really difficult situation. I'm not happy with the work ethic. I'm not happy with the systems. I'm not happy with the culture. I hope things improve. That's me venting. Second option is, man, my manager's an idiot. He doesn't listen to anything I say. He's selfish. He's XYZ. Doesn't help me, blah, 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 blah. That's probably in India. Because unless you've gone to your manager and actually raised those concerns and tried, then you're speaking behind his back. And it's very hard when we're emotional to stay objective. Because even then, you could have gone to your manager and said, Manager Saab, I need help. And your manager just blanks you. Even then, there's two situations. First situation, which is venting, is, man, I really tried my manager today, but for some reason, he just wasn't listening. That's venting. In India is, my manager's a beep. I tried to speak to him. He's an absolute beep. He doesn't care. You see the difference? You can still be objective about it, but it's still quite hard. So, again, but then, yeah. So hopefully I answered the question. Any other thoughts on just how the clubbing scene and I guess environments we're trying to think about where we should be?
Pardon, sorry.
Yeah.
I've got like a question for Benji's. What if you're doing India, but then to protect somebody, so like you've been in a situation, you've heard something from someone who's in sangat, but then to protect somebody else, you're talking about it?
I say it's not in India.
No.
So imagine person A is dodgy. Person A is a Kirtani. Person A has got 10,000 views on SoundCloud, whatever, right? And I'm going to explain this because unfortunately this happens a lot. A new BB comes into Sikhi and she's idolizing person A. You know for a fact person A is dodgy. That is your jummewari to actually try and, first of all, probably speak to person A and see what the situation is. But imagine we're past that. We know. Then you saying to Bibi, new Bibi entering the scene, stay away from him, that's not in India, I would argue.
I heard once in Gatha that they said like in India is when you add like a lot of masala and it's fake, basically it's not the truth. So if you know something's true and you're saying that, even if it's like a negative, even if it's something negative about the person, if it's the truth, it's not in India. Yeah. But if you're kind of twisting the truth, you're adding like masala to it, and you're just sort of like trying to turn it into something else with bad intent, then it's in India. So it's like, is the intention behind it as well? Again,
let's take that as an example. The influencer I was talking about, what's his name? Philly, right? Yeah. Okay, there's an Instagram influencer called Philly who's had rape allegations on him as this morning. Now, we don't know whether they're true or not. All due respect, we don't know. So imagine there's someone that wants to interact with Philly. In your case, what we're talking about. My situation would be, look, there's a serious allegation on him. I'd recommend for the allegation's reasons, keep arm's length or stay away, don't get involved. That's not in India. If then you say, oh, he's got allegations on him, he's this, he's that, he's this, I saw him do this, that's adding masala where it's not needed. And those things are technically untrue until you specifically know. I would say that's probably edging towards in India. This is just caring about someone, I would argue. Hanji, yeah. Which is still quite hard to do, especially when there's emotions involved. It's very, very hard to keep clarity. But that's what you'll find all the greatest leaders as well, within Sikhi and even in your workplaces or whatever, they'll always be able to just focus on the situation and not the emotion or the person. Because just because someone does something bad doesn't mean they're bad. They just did something that was bad.
I think men are better
Sorry, do you guys hear that? Yeah.
only because we're more about emotions.
if I speak, there will be big trouble. So I'm gonna acknowledge. I'm gonna very caringly acknowledge what you said, Benji, and move on. We'll make a reel of that. No, I'd argue the same, with all due respect. Not always, obviously, but just because Benji's mentioned it. We're gonna move on because I'm getting bare evil looks. So we've talked about things to be wary of, and that doesn't mean just in a club. That could be in a society, that could be at a work do, that could be in the work environment itself, that could be at a family member's house, that could be at the football club, whatever. Any of those signs that come up are things that, as Gurbani has told us, to try and keep away from, because they're going to have no positive effect on us. So what kind of sangat should we look for? Within Gurbani we have Nicha andar Nich Jat, Nichi huot Nich, Nanak Tenka Sang Saath, Vadya Syo Kyaris. So here Guru Sahib saying, another sangat karo. And that's going to be what's your saath, that's going to be your help by doing the sangat of these people. Nicha andar Nich Jat, the lowest of the low, and Jitha Nich Somalian, Jitha Nadar Teri Baksis. Where the lowest of the low are being looked after. At that place, the Guru's nadar, the Guru's glance, teri baksis. That's where Guruji is glancing and giving their nadar, and as a result, blessing people. And that's where Guru Sahib is happiest, where the lowest of the low are being looked after. Now that does mean like physically poor people, but low also in a sense of humility. Not people that are going around talking about how much money they have or whatever situation. I don't want to make it personal for anyone, so I'm not going to go into things. But here, what Guru Sahib is saying in terms of Vadya Syon Kyaris, why should we try and compare ourselves with Vadde Bande? And here Guruji is referring to people that think they're big. Whether that's big because of your status, big because of how many relationships you've had, big because of your house, big because of the cars that you have, whatever it is. Guru Sahib says, there's no point in trying to compare yourself to those people. And then Guru Sahib goes and says, by staying and serving amongst the lowest of the people, one, in a physical, monetary sense, but also people that deem themselves low in terms of their humility. You could have a billionaire that's very humble, right? They would still come under that definition. So the definition of Vadda and Nich is very important to understand there. Because you could have someone that's very high in a worldly sense, but is still Nicha. Because they don't go around flaunting it and they're doing good with it. If that makes sense. As I mentioned, Sat Sangat Kaisi Janiya, Jitha Eko Naam Khaniya. And this is quite interesting. I've done this experiment in my own life. And it's very interesting. Even Sikhi spaces, I'll urge you all to do this. Any Sikhi space you go into, this is your litmus test now. Any conversation you're having with anyone, within a 5-minute conversation, was there one utter about Guru Sahib, Gurbani, our history? And if there wasn't, then that's something to take a note of. Now, I'm not saying disassociate yourself from people, yeah? I'll go through conversations without talking about the Guru as well. I'll talk about football, whatever. But if we start keeping an eye on things, then we can slowly start tweaking things. Because, for example, if you're in a friendship circle, whether they're religious or not, and you monitor your conversations for a week, and within a week, there's no mention of something that's positive, then that's probably a good indicator. However, like for my example, I know with my friends, there might be one conversation that's totally random, but we're just laughing at each other. But then the next conversation will be really deep about Sikhi. So you kind of know you're in the right space, if that makes sense. So it's very interesting to do that experiment amongst yourselves. And if you're married, do that with your partner. You'll find it quite interesting. And if you find for whatever reason, life's busy, the kids are hard, whatever, that you're not getting a chance to talk about Ikko Naam Khaniya, then that's not to say start shouting at your wife or your husband to say, you don't do any good galla. That's your chance to try and influence it, because they probably want to do it as well. And you can say, oh, today in Katha I heard this, or remember this talk, or let's listen to this podcast. And you can start directing the conversation so that eventually you get to that place. You know? So it's just it's being conscious about it, I would say. Sangat of Gursikhs, this was a great Mahapurush I spent time with. They're still around. Baba Baldev Singh Ji from Jogiwal. I was lucky to spend time with them in 2017 for about 5-6 months. And you pick up, I think it's really important in terms of Sangat. Our generation gets very trapped into this. Especially if you're new into Sikhi, this can be hard. It's very important to have older Sangat as well, because it keeps you grounded. And there's some things that life experience, you can't just, there are some things like life experience that you just cannot replace. And by being around elderly Gursikhs or people with more experience than you, you learn things like Rani Berni, how to conduct yourself basically in a respectful and a positive way. So it's really important that we have people that are wiser than us around us where we can. And obviously these talks are a great platform. Coming to the Guru Kar, listen to Katha Vachiks, quite often Katha Vachiks, especially this Gurdwara, you have some crazy, amazing Katha Vachiks that come. Ask them a question after the Katha. Annoy them as much as you can, I would say. Because they normally come with a wealth of experience as well. And there's more in situations in various ways. And the reason is that they're not just theoretically living their lives, they're living it due to experience as well. And there's a personal story about a Gursikh I always talk about. Whilst I was actually staying at the Gurdwara, his name is Nitnem Singh, he's one of the right. Well, it's so funny. I was like freaking out about staying in India. So my mum packed me a whole techi of like cleaning supplies, like flash, yellow gloves, like toilet cleaners. And they were like, Aki leke aaye, what the hell's all this stuff? They were laughing at me. I've got bleach and everything. And he was like, Mandeep Singh mein vartana. And that's how I got this random picture of him. But the reason I mention him, he was my age. And I remember he really looked after me, and he's someone that I always look up to in terms of Rani Beni, someone that I learnt a lot from in terms of just how to conduct yourself. Like for example, the first night I stayed, I was really nervous. My Punjabi is still bad, but it was even worse then. And he just came to my room, and he is one of the most older students in the whole Taksal at that point. Like I actually learnt from him, so he was my teacher, but he's my age, so it's a bit weird. And he just brought me a banana milkshake, and he goes, oh, I just brought you a milkshake, thought you might want it. And just to be like welcoming. And you learn those things. So in my head now, I was like, whenever someone new comes into an environment, I need to make them feel welcome. Because I learned that from him, because how he made me feel. And hopefully if I've done that to someone else, they'll remember it and they'll pass that on. So these kind of unsaid culture within Gursikhi, you get from being around great Gursikhs. And then another example was, there's a Gyani Singh, I'll say, who is like watching over everything. And it was like my final night at the Taksal. And it was quite late. And we weren't really talking, we were just talking about Ame Galla. And no disrespect to the Gyani Singh, right? In that sense. And Nitnem Singh, he looked at his watch and he's like, Asi swear no Amrit Veli Uthna. So he said in a very polite way, he's like, Gyani, saun chali, I'm like, can we go now? And the Gyani flipped, because he's thinking, yo, this guy's doing my bestie. Like, he doesn't want to chill anymore. He goes, tu ki karna? And then he just stayed quiet and he just carried on sitting. Then after, when I got out, I sensed a bit of tension. He said to me, Mandeep Singh, Harek bande de vich gun bhi hunde te avgun bhi hunde. He goes, gun chakalo, avgun utthe rehan diyo. He goes, take the good stuff. Anything that's bad, just leave it there. And the reason I've got that picture up, I didn't realize that about halfway of my stay, he would go and clean the toilets most days. So he was one of those senior students in the whole place. He would teach most people, but every day he'd go and just clean all the toilets. And you know what India toilets are like? Yeah, it's serious gum. Serious, you're doing, like you're squatting down to get stuff. Yeah, it's not easy. But that was his humility, and that's just, I was lucky enough to spend that time in India, and you meet these gems, right? And the things they teach you stick with you forever. That can happen in England as well. My point being is try and find those people that will make you think of the Guru and how you connect to the Guru as well. And within our itihas, we find this example. We have Nawab Kapoor Singh on the left, the first Sikh general that in the, you can call it the confederacy of the Sikh Raj that led to Maharaja Ranjit Singh's rule after the Mughals, after we took Raj back after the Mughals. He personally trained Jassa Singh Ahluwalia under his leadership. And you could argue Jassa Singh Ahluwalia's sangat with Nawab Kapoor Singh led him to be one of the greatest generals the Panth has ever seen. So we see this in leadership as well, and it's very important that those of us that may act as role models in certain situations, it's important that we don't, whatever we have, we spread it as much as we can to the next beauty. Because that's what these guys did, and that's why they were strong. They trained for these things. And Nawab Kapoor Singh himself used to do seva of the kore, picking up the lid, picking up the tatti basically. And he continued that seva as well. Now imagine being in the time of Nawab Kapoor Singh, being in the sangat of Nawab Kapoor Singh, he's been given an order by the Singhs to lead the whole Panth and become the king basically of the Panth, the general. But he said, I'll do it, but if you let me carry my seva on. And then seeing the general of the army still doing that seva, what effect is that going to have on you? That's going to make you remember that you're no one. And that everything only happens with the Guru's kirpa. So it's very important to have elder Gursikhs involved wherever we can. And here we see now what's the positive effects within itihas. There's many examples of positive effects of how even the most random people have been saved because of the sangat they've done. Sorry, excuse me. Is the heating gone, Bhavan Singh? Oh, just me, I think. So sangat ka gun bahut adkai par sua ganak udari. So there's a famous Sikhi that comes up in the itihas. I'm just going to summarize it very quickly about Ganika. And she was a prostitute. And she actually got mukti, she got saved because she did the seva of a sadhu, of a holy person. And a long story goes that the holy person actually gave her a parrot. And the condition was that you need to say a name of God to the parrot every day or every so often. And because she accepted the condition from that holy man, she ended up doing Simran. She ended up kept on saying the name of God, and she got mukti for it. Even though she was a prostitute. So again, if you think of the word prostitute, it's quite hard, right? It's quite harsh. And you think in the most respectful way, low, like really person that can't be saved, person over there kind of thing, right? But even here, through Gurbani and through our itihas, we find that even the lowest of the low people, people that the world wouldn't even dare to look at, people that the world wouldn't spend a breath on, whether it's Ganika, whether it is Sajjan Tug, a serial killer, whether it is Kauda Raksha, cannibal, Guru Sahib not only saved these people but transformed them as well. Such is the effect of Sangat. Now how does this relate to our life? Hopefully no one's a serial killer here, or no one's a cannibal. Do let me know if you are. If we're thinking, man, I've done too much bad, or I'm currently in this sangat and it's not good enough, or I'm currently, whatever, my history is XYZ. This is your sign that there's nothing that can't be overcome. Because it has been overcome in the past, and it will be overcome in the future as well. No matter what bad habits you have with you, no matter what bad experiences you have with you, it does not matter. There's no power that's more powerful than Guru Sahib. So whatever mistakes you've made, or whatever current mistakes you're making, whatever bad habits you have, they do not matter. As long as you're willing to try and make an effort with them. And even with those bad things, what we'll find, or the unhealthy things, is you might have tried to change things, whether it's trying to stay away from a group of people, whether it's trying to change a habit, whatever that might be. You'll try and you'll fail, you'll try and you'll fail. And this is even more so of a reason why you need to leave it to the experts. And the expert is Guru Sahib themselves. You know, quite often when, I'm trying to think of an example now. We all know that desi that in some way, shape or form that tried to build something at home or try to fix something themselves, right? and after 2-3 weeks, suit nahi honda, call an expert in. We've all had that experience, right? Same with us. We're trying to sort it out ourselves. Doesn't work. Call the expert in, go to Guru Sahib. And they will sort it out for you. They'll lead you in the direction and they'll fill in any gaps as well. So, just on sangat, and then we'll move on to relationships in particular. Within Gurbani we hear that kusangat baha sada dukh pava dukho dukh kamaya. By staying amongst kusangat, people that are taking you away from the Guru, away from Gurbani, or just the negativity generally, Maharaj we kende dukhi hona. You're only going to get pain. Whether that's now, whether that's in a week's time, whether that's in a year's time, you're planting the seeds for it to happen. Now on the other side, again, how powerful is Sad Sangat? Sad Sang Jamdut na Pirtan. That the Jamduts, the angels of death, they're not allowed to come anyone that's part of Sad Sangat. And there's a very famous Sikhi, I wasn't planning to go on to it, but I'll go on to it and then we'll have a quick break if that's okay with everyone. I'm just conscious of the time. For those of you that read Rakhya de Shabad, there's a Shabad that comes up. So when we go to sleep at night, there's normally 2 parts we read. They're really short. One's called Rakhya de Shabad. Rakhya means protection. So you can read it anytime as well. It's kind of like Chaupe Sahib, right? But very much smaller. And then Kirtan Sahila. In Rakhya de Shabad, we hear that Pankti, Ana, Ha, Ana, Tu, Ana, Chutta Hai, Nikatana, Jai Hudud. And there's a Uthanka, there's a Sakhi behind it. Really cool Sakhi behind it, actually. And the Sakhi is that there was a government official who was living in a pind where there was a great Gursikh of the Guru, a great Sadhu, a great Mahapurkh. And what happened was, long story short, he had an emergency, he had to go back to his pind. And it was the middle of the night, and the mistris, the workers, they said, we're not going to hold your luggage in the middle of the night. Like, ite koi labna nahi. And he's like, look, I'm desperate, I need to get back. And he goes, is there anyone that will help me? And they said, look, there's one Guru that's sick in the middle of the night that might help you. He asked that Mahapurkh, what was his name? Maaf karna, I forgot the Gursikh's name. Yeah, I forgot. I can bring it up after. And the Mahapurkh said, Theek hai, I'll go with you. And the Mahapurkh was always just thinking about WhyGuru. So he was always doing Simran, always doing Part. And whilst holding his luggage, the man just kept talking. So what happened was, the Mahapurkh just dropped everything. And he started walking off. He's like, oh, where are you going? He goes, look, thode naal mere ko bhakti nahi hundi. Because I'm walking with you, I'm getting distracted, I can't do my bhakti. And he's like, no, I didn't mean to disturb you. He goes, look, tusi karo, walk with me, say the part out loud, mera bhi pala ho juga. I'll listen to it as well. And I go, theek hai. So throughout that journey, throughout the middle of the night, he kept doing his seva, kept doing his bhakti, and then they eventually got back to his house. And the official was very thankful. He's like, thank you so much. He was quite old, he was about 60 years old. And he said, look, kare rao, let me host you for a night, let me do your seva. The Mahapurkh said, theek hai. The Mahapurkh said, make sure you get up Amrit Vela with me and do Nitnem. So they got up together in Amrit Vela, did Nitnem. He was about to go. And the Mahapurkh said, you know what, this guy's done my seva, let me try and help him. And he asks the official, how old are you? And he goes, a bit of a random question. Why are you asking me how old I am? He says, I'm 60 years old. I'm about 60 years old. And he goes, why do you ask? He goes, you've got 10 days to live. And the guy's freaking out. He's like, what the hell? He's like, what do you mean? Why are you telling me this? I only asked you to come and help me with my luggage. And he goes, he's freaking out. He's like, what shall I do? What shall I do? And he's a bit annoyed at the fact that he's brought this conversation up. And the Mahapurkh says, look, tu fikr na kar. I'm going to die in a few days' time as well. Then maybe charai kar lena. And he said, okay, what shall I do? He goes, look, when you go to Dharamraj, when you go to that person who looks at your likha, your accounts, Dharamraj is going to look at your likha and he's going to say you've wasted your whole life. And now he's freaking out even more. Then he says, but the Amrit Billah, the Sangat we did together, that Sad Sangat, Dharamraj will see it and it will beam out And then Dharamraj will offer you a choice. Say, because of the sangat you've done, where you did Gurbani, you did Simran, you're allowed a short space in Sachkhand in the highest most heaven where WhyGuru is. But you have to go to Nark, you have to go to the hells and spend your time for wasting your life, and then you'll come back into this life. He's going to ask you, which one do you want to do first? And then the official says, okay, main ki kara? He goes, Pehla Sachkhand chal jo. And then he goes, okay, what about when my time's up? Although main ki karna, what am I going to do then? He goes, koi nahi, I'll be in Sachkhand, main tenu lab luga. Because I'll find you. He's thinking, okay, crap. What happens? He goes to Sachkhand, he goes to Dharamraj sees it, just as the Mahapurush saying, and he's banking on this Mahapurush now, in the afterlife. And he says, Dharamraj says, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Narak first, or do you want to go to Sachkhand first? He goes to Sachkhand. And he says to the Jamdoots, the angels of death, that are like his workers, and then when his time's up, morke leke aao. Then he has to go to Narak. So the angels of death aren't allowed anywhere near Sachkhand, or bar, or khade hunde. He goes and he finds that Mahapurush, he's happy, he sits down in Sachkhand, and there's kirtan happening. Phir Jamdoot ko awaaz aunਦੀ ਆ, they're calling him, oh, thoda sama ho gaya, bahar nikal. And then he's about to get up and leave, and the Mahapurush goes, oh, tu kithe challa? Goes, oh, saad de sanu. He goes, baya chop karke, kuch nahi hunda. And now he's like, what, the Jamdoot, the angels are calling me? Like, he's panicking. And then they're getting annoyed, and they're like, we're going to extend your saja. Tusi bahar nahi aaye. But then they're like, we can't go in. So then they go back to Dharamraj, their manager, and they say, look, oh, bahar nahi nikalda, asi ki kariye? And they go, Sanu hukam deo, let us go in Sachkhand and grab him. And then Dharamraj replies with the pankti, Ana ho, ana tu nah chota hai, nikat na jaiyo hudud. Ana ho, not me, ana ho, ana tu sivini, ana ho, ana tu nah chota hai. If Shutta means to be saved, we won't be saved. If we go into that space, we're not allowed in that area. If I go or you go, we'll get destroyed. Nikat means close. To see them do it, to see lage bhi nahi ja sakde. And then he stayed in Sachkhand. So look at the effect of just having sangat for one Amrit Villa and having sangat of the right Mahapurush. So quite often we think that things that are hard in the midst of it, it's important that we learn Sakhis, we look at good Sikhs of the past, because that provides us with evidence that what we're doing is very important and works as well. And we need that constant inspiration. That's one of my favorite Sakhis, quite a funny one as well. I'm not saying just live your life and then do one Amrit Villa and wait for the best, yeah? Obviously the Amrit Villa will do you good, but I'm not guaranteeing anything. Yeah, don't go up to Dharamraj and say, Mandeep Singh said that if I do one, you're going to give me an option and he's going to meet me there. Don't quote me, yeah? I'm just saying, Amrit Chakalo, keep your right, you'll be alright. That's not my job. ठीक है जी? How long would everyone like the talk to go on for? Should we have a 5-minute break and then do 20 more minutes? Everyone's just looking at me. Give me a yes or give me a no. Okay. Oh, still none of you did anything. We'll have literally a 2-minute break. And then what we'll do is we'll carry on to 8:45 if that's okay. And then 8:45 to 9 o'clock, we'll do a Q&A if anyone wants to ask any questions. ठीक है जी? वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह. खालसा जी बतेरे जी. ठीक है बहन जी? That's okay.
I got a question. Your first point you had on the screen when I walked in. You dancing such bad.
Say that again. Oh. I said the actual act of doing exercise, of dancing, is nothing wrong with it. But I said it's the culture that surrounds it and the space you normally go in.
Say if you're in your family environment, garda, like mahal, no sharab.
No sharab, depends what songs are playing.
What if you're not even listening to the song, it's just the beat?
Then
Get down with your...
I personally wouldn't do it, but if you want, go for it.
So it's not correct, is it then?
No, it's not correct. From my understanding.
When you touched up on Sucham, Sucham doesn't make it correct either, does it?
Unless you have halal or anything associated with halal, or even some would argue mass. Technically no, but
Is that a bunch of question?
that is a bunch better question, yeah, 100%. And quite often, if you're unsure about something, just get it dealt with a bunch better anyways. Simple. That's how I go by.
For example, I'll give you an example of what I'm starting with. Say if you know some beautiful Sikhs, Guru Sikhs themselves, obviously they keep to the gym, but their family meat wale, chicken wale,
Yeah.
but they're not halal. And they want to cook you food, beautiful meal, out of yard. Can you eat at their house or not? Because you personally don't have it in your house.
It's not like can you, it's like it depends on where your line is. That's how you would do it.
Yeah. Is everything okay? Yeah.
It depends on what your line is. Like, there's no like right or wrong for that. That's just on where you're comfortable. Like, if you ask me personally, I would generally not eat or drink anywhere where there's
Halal.
meat being cooked or drinking.
Even if, so forget the drinking part, that's chalo.
Yeah, if there's meat being cooked there, I want you to be like,
Even if it's the good Sikh.
yeah, any house.
So you're like
That's my line.
Yeah,
But
that's
then,
what
for
I-
example, like if there's a Tesco sandwich that's packaged, I'll eat that.
So you're saying with me basically.
Yeah. But then some people have a different line, and that's fine as well. Just depends on where you're at.
But say if on the one occasion you didn't but the good sort of so children kept separate ovens, separate all this. That doesn't create for our then, does it?
No, if technically if you eat where there's meat being made, that's not technically correct. But some people,
But for me, my level is true.
and for me, so for, yeah, just depends on what your line is. Yeah, a correct is quite hard trying to define.
That's when you have physically yourself.
Yeah, it's quite handy.
Have you spoken about the dating stuff here?
We're getting onto that now. Okay, Sangat, you were starting in 30 seconds. Okay, Dee, we'll crack on. So, just the last thing that was really important to mention about Sangat, I believe it's from, excuse me, I believe it's from Bhai Gurdashi's Bara, that ek Sikh doi sad sang panji parmeshwar. That if someone's on their own, they're a Sikh, je do kathe hove, that's sad sangat. And je panj singh kathe hove, that's Parmeshwar, but the Sarup of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, the Panj Pyare. And that's why quite often, like a tradition that we aren't really in tune with as much as maybe your parents would have done it, is you'd have Panj Singh over Prashada at the house, you know? Like a special occasion, or if you wanted to get out of the das done. So that's another form of Sangat, a very important form of Sangat as well. There's a Sakhi, one of my favorite Sakhis about a great Guru Sikh from the times of 1984 by Dalbir Singh Abhyasi. But if someone reminds me, I'll come back to it at the end, because I'm just conscious of time. Oh, this one's really good. They're all good. So this is also the effect of Sangat. So there's Singh ko Shaheed Lakshman Singh Babbar. Now his initial name was Bashir Muhammad, and he was sent by the Indian agencies to go and actually spy on the Babbar Khalsa, who were and still are a prominent group fighting against the Indian government and fighting for Sikh freedom in Punjab. And he actually went in and kept his gaze and tied at the star to try and fit in with the Babur Khalsa. And what happened was, so he was the bodyguard of DSP Sukhdev Chahal, which was not a great guy by any means. So what ended up happening is he would send reports on what the Singhs are doing, how they're living, but he had a lot of respect for the Singhs. And as he started living with them, he's like, yo, these guys they're angels. Like, they wake up in the morning, they do their Naam Abhyas, they do their Bhakti, they speak very highly about each other, they do sangat, they do seva, they look after people. And he started falling in love with the Singhs and their way of life. And what happened was, he experienced Amrit Vela and he had that ras of Gurbani. And at that point, when he realized that I'm fighting against the wrong people here, these guys are saints, they're angels, he told the Singhs and put his hands up and asked for forgiveness. And then he sent a letter to his DSP to say, I'm no longer a spy for you, I'm now one of these Singhs. The people you're trying to hunt down, you'll never be successful because you're fighting against angels. That's what he said. And the Muslim himself took Amrit and became a Singh, even though he went in as an undercover spy. And he took Amrit and he actually became Shaheed in Calcutta. And there's a crazy story about how he left Punjab because he was on the run and the police hunted him down this house in Calcutta and he became Shaheed. But he even gave Shaheedi for the pant. And that's just the effect of having the right sangat around you. That even the worst people that come with the worst intentions, all iman jande. Sat Sri Akal. So dating. Just before that, any last questions on sangat? I think I've covered quite a few questions that people had regarding sangat, but if there's any specific, we'll go through them in a minute as well. So dating. Before I get into dating, it'd be good to hear people's thoughts if you don't mind sharing. What are people, because it can be quite a grey area. So anyone's initial thoughts on dating in Sikhi? Come on. No one?
Like you only date to marry.
Okay, what's your name, Benji? Gurpreet, thank you. You only date to marry. Okay, that's interesting, the date to marry. Is it dating then if you're thinking about marriage?
Well, I mean, you don't go on a date and be like, yo, I'm looking for a husband. But like, you know.
Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is you should only start getting to know someone if the intention is to marry.
Yeah, like
Okay.
not like just something without commitment.
Not a fling, basically. Okay, cool. Perfect, it's a good point. Anyone else? Any other thoughts to add to what Benji said or even agree or disagree? Hanji.
So I agree with what Benji said, and I think with dating, we've given it such a negative connotation because of the way the Western world dates.
Yeah, interesting.
So if we did the Sikhi way,
Yeah.
without any of the particular comments associated to it,
Hanji.
I think it's okay.
Cool.
That's my personal view. I don't know if that's
Let's try and add some terminology to help us all with this so you don't get confused. Yeah, I think I agree with what Benji's saying in the sense that I don't want to use the word dating because that has the wrong connotations. When you think of dating, you think of like American film, Monday in high school, whatever, right? That kind of stuff. Before we get on to what the recommended route is, let's just talk about the other stuff, Hannah. So I'm going to come back to your point, Benji. Thank you. So I guess there's a question for you. Why do people date? And now we're talking about the general American idea of dating, right? Just relationship, not necessarily anything in it. We're just here to have a good time. Any thoughts? Why do people date? To fall in love, yeah. So I get fall in love, find the right life partner. There's obviously the other reasons as well, right? People might be physically attracted to someone. People might feel left out that they're not dating people. People might want a sexual relationship, so you get into a date, right? So there's a lot behind it. People might want to use someone for whatever reason. So I think there's a lot of factors. And there's two scenarios I'm going to break it into. Scenario one is you're not looking to get married. Scenario two is what we kind of alluded to anyways. So scenario one is you're not looking to get married. Now, I just want to put a very clear line in this, because I've heard, I'm a maths teacher by trade, right? And I have students that have told me this, 16-year-old students, that said, sir, I'm looking for a life partner. I'm like, bro, no, you're not. You're not looking for a life partner. Yeah? You don't know what life partner is. Yeah? So, I would argue, minimum 20, minimum. And until there's some form of peace, tranquility, and stability in your life, you are not eligible to look for a life partner. No matter how Siana you think you are, no matter what TikTok says, no matter what Philly says, yeah, does not matter. And it's really hard. When you're a 16-year-old, you think you've got it figured out. You think, man, this is the one. And this is it. It's this or nothing. And otherwise, this is what we all think. I went through it as well. We all went through it, right? It's just natural. It's just growing up. But from past experience and the hard facts, if you're not of that age, you do not know what you need. And you can't take that personally. That's fine. I don't care. So if you're not looking to get married, then I think we're all heading toward the same kind of agreement. There's no dating in Sikhi. Why? Because what does it achieve? If you're not looking to get married, then there's other reasons to why you'd want to date. That is to waste someone's time, to have a sexual relationship, to abuse someone, or just because you want to do time pass. Any of those do not constitute a good enough reason to get into a relationship. And it's really important because prior to you getting married, has anyone recently got married here? Okay, in the past 5 years. No one. Okay, few of you, yeah? We all know that when you get married, your time is like halved. Not in a bad way. Yeah, it's just the nature of marriage. Your time is spent on family things. I know, which is great as well. But the personal time you have is gone. A huge chunk of it. So, if you're messing around in that key period before you get married, where Guru Sahib has given us that time to develop our Sikhi, to learn our Santya, to get strong in our history, to get strong in our personal lives, so that we're prepared to the best of our ability for whatever life throws at us, for what a marriage will throw at us as well. And also from a worldly sense, to get your GCSEs, to get a good job, to get that degree, whatever it might be. If you're wasting that time's not going to come back. And that will have an effect on the rest of your life as well. I know kids, Marikirpa taught one of the best schools in the country for 5 years. I know kids that were on their ways to Oxbridge, got into a relationship, and now they're looking in clearing, with all due respect for uni places. Because the amount of time it takes to uphold a relationship, especially in today's world, yeah, people lost the plot. 2-3 hours every evening, that's a huge waste of resource, quite frankly. And that time is being wasted. There's not time you're not getting it back. Now, if you're doing that with no intention of actually pursuing it, all that time, energy, and commitment has gone to waste. And then what happens is, at the end, is there's also attachment involved as well. One of the most dangerous things. Now, if person A and person B get together, person A is thinking, I want a fling. Person B is thinking, this is my life partner. When they go to uni, person A says, Sasri Gal in a bit. Person B thinks, what? Person B is finished. Person B has trust issues. Now imagine you do this in a Sikhi lens. Imagine there's an Amritari Singh and Amritari Bibi. Either one comes out heartbroken. They haven't just lost faith in person A, they've lost faith in Sikhi. Because they're thinking, well, Sikha da kamma. And if the Bibi gets heartbroken, she thinks, is this what Singhs are like? I don't want to marry a Singh. They're just here to mess me about. And same for the Singh. If the Singh gets with the Bibi and she messes him about, she's like, let me find someone else. And from my understanding, a lot of the times, apni or Bibi and go with other people is because they've had a bad experience with apni. Not all of them, obviously. But I'd say it's a big factor. So the Punjabi scene is different. We're just talking about Sikhi ideals, right? So quite frankly, it's a waste of time. And time is much while spent in other scenarios. And if we think about it holistically, Guru Sahib says that Pei Pravat Manak De Huriya Gobind Miran Ki Ihi Teri Bariya. If we try and stay on track, we're here to meet God. It's a huge job. We do not have a minute to waste. I'm speaking to myself here because I waste a lot of time as well. But if we start with the ideal that, is this going to help me in reaching my life goal? Is this going to help me find internal peace? Is this going to help me become fearless? If it's not, and we know where our line stands, it's very easy to say no and yes to things. If we don't have that direction, then we'll just go left and right, which is what most of the world is doing anyways. And not have a fling in high school, have a fling in university, maybe get married, maybe whatever, right? People just walk aimlessly. But Guru Sahib's given us a trajectory, and if we know where it's heading, we can do our best to stay on that. So, simply no. There's no need for it. It doesn't help. It doesn't benefit our Sikhi in any way, shape or form. Therefore, is no needed. Second to, now you are looking to get married. This is probably more important one. Imagine you're 19 and above. 19 is arguably quite low as well. But for argument's sake, you're in university, right? Let's think of a scenario. Quite often, you go to Sikh society. You find someone nice. You don't have any bad intention. But Jal, you're third year now, and you think, I probably will get married in a year or two. How should I go about this? The prescribed way and the trusted and recommended way is that you never approach someone yourself. You always get a Vijola involved. Now, people get scared when I say Vijola. Vijola isn't like someone that goes to your pind and shows a photo and say Vyah karu. That used to happen, yeah? That's not what I mean, but I'm talking about modern Vijola, yeah? I'm a modern Vijola, by the way. Yeah. I said, give you my card after. Got 2 marriages under my belt so far. And there's no divorces yet, so we're good. Not a good, 100% success rate. No, in all honesty, it's important that we know we can ask Sangat for help. So genuinely, if anyone is looking, reach out to people you know. Don't be afraid of it. Because if you're not going to ask our own people, who are actually going to ask? Anyways, get a Vijola involved. So for argument's sake, I'll give you, I'm sure you won't mind, mine and Baljeet's example. We had a Vijola involved. We had seen each other, but we never spoke to each other. Because we were in the same Santa classes or whatever, we just we knew, I didn't really know her name, to be honest. Because we hardly crossed paths, but I just knew, that BB, that way, right? So a family, one of my group leaders actually from a camp, who has turned out to be an elder brother of mine now. I'd known him for a long time, and when I was at 22, 23, I just said, bro, I might be looking to settle down in a few years. Can you keep an eye out? And he also knew Baljeet Kaur's family. So he actually knew what my criteria was, what kind of a person I'm like. He knew what she was like and what the family is like. And he basically proposed this together. So rather than dating, I want to change that with introduction is a better word, I would say. It's good to get an introduction, but even then make sure it's mediated. Because the other situation could have been, for argument's sake, imagine me and Baljeet Kaur finish the Santhya class, and in the Gurdwara car park, I start speaking to her with a good intention to see could she be a life partner. I get her Instagram, I get her number. She wouldn't have given me anyways, because that's the kind of BB she is. And I have a lot more respect for her than that. But argument's sake, because this happens a lot. It'll be at Iron Spy, it'll be a Sikh society. People exchange numbers themselves. Then it gets to Instagram, then it gets to WhatsApp. Now sometimes those situations pan out okay. A lot of the times they don't. Why you need a Vijola involved is for the insurance. And the sad fact is, quite often the BBR come out worse off. Because I'm sure in terms of relationships, you'll all know this. And it's a sad fact, it's not fair, I agree, but it's what we're dealing with. If a Bibi does something stupid, messes around with a guy or whatever, everyone knows about it and no one ever forgets. If a guy does it, in a year's time, everyone's forgotten. It's true, right? Quite often. It's not fair by any means, but it's the fact. So for that reason, in particular Bibiyan, that unfortunately normally come out worse, it's important that you have a barrier. Now, if anything went wrong in my and Baljeet's situation, there was someone mediating the whole thing that had clarity. And if there's someone mediating it, there's less of a chance of it going wrong anyways. You know? So it's very important. And what the Waliullah will do, I'll give you our example. We exchanged numbers with both parents knowing, and your parents should know. If you're not willing to tell your parent, that's a sign in itself. If you're not, anything you're not willing to tell your parents you're about to do is probably indicative of you shouldn't be doing it. But also that gives then you assurance as well, that imagine you're speaking to someone, or gossip gets out, and auntie at the Gurdwara finds out, and then goes to your mom and says, "Ma sonia, tera munda." If your mom knows, it's chill, because she's got your back. If she doesn't know, then you're going to get shit then. But then it gets very messy. So it's very important to have clarity. So what happened was, we spoke over the phone, and it was funny, the first conversation I had like an A4 sheet list of questions. And I remember I was like, "Hi, how's it going?" And I was like, "Before we carry on, I just need to ask you some stuff, otherwise no point." She's like, "What the hell?" This is weirdo, right? But you thank me for it, right? You thank me for it, right? Because I ain't got time to waste.
That's a good sign.
I got bare friends as it is. And I was like, "Do you want kids? Would you mind staying at home? Do this, do that, do that." I just said to her, these are my non-negotiables. There's no point in speaking if this doesn't get passed. And then once that was green ticked, I was like, okay, there's worth me trying to put some effort into this, and it's worth her putting effort into this. Otherwise, no point. There's been so many situations where people have spoken for 6 months. People have even got married and then realized the other person doesn't want kids. So it is a bit savage. But at the same time, this is your life you're talking about, and I don't want to get attached to someone. I don't want someone to get attached to me if there's things that we're going to disagree on. So that cleared up. Then what happened was, we spoke over the phone. Everyone knew we were speaking to each other. Just general how are things, learning about each other. Then after like, I think 3-4 weeks, we thought, okay, this is heading in like a positive direction. Then with the Waliullah, we met in an open space in a park. The Waliullah's family was there, a bit of Balit's family was there, and we all just met. And then literally went for a walk.
It was COVID time.
Yeah, it was COVID time as well. And we went for a walk and just spent a bit of time together, but they knew we were in the park, nothing dodgy, whatever, right? And then after that, we carried on, it was all good, carried on speaking on the phone, and then our families met, and then eventually it just developed. But my point is, everything was done in the open. And at every point, there was someone we could contact if there was a problem. Like if their family need to ask something about us, obviously her mom's not going to ask my mom directly, so she has the Waliullah. If we need to find something out, the Waliullah asks. And it keeps family politics at bay as well, which is really important. So don't ever approach the person yourself. So if you're in university, second year, and you think, you know, this BB is really serious, that Singh, he's really nice, he's got his head screwed on, his Sikhi is good, never approach them yourself. Find an elder Gursikh, find a Waliullah, and a Waliullah, so there's interesting definitions of Waliullah as well. Right? There's some people, like, for example, there's okay, yeah, I'm not going to go into details, but a Waliullah isn't a mutual friend, your age. A Waliullah should be someone married that is trusted by the sangat, not just a friend introduction. That does not act as a Waliullah. So it's very important to get that clear. Someone preferably elder. So it's very important that you get that involved. Otherwise, you're leaving yourself open to problems, with all due respect. And I know I'm coming at it a bit like it's a bit of a corporate way. I know, approaching these things, risk, analysis. But you have to, otherwise it's messy. And this whole fairy tale about you should feel something with the person, you should be dreaming about them. Not really, all due respect. Sometimes you might feel like that. But that is developed as it goes on. Like if you meet someone or someone you're introduced and you don't have a dream about them, that doesn't mean it's not going to work. If you think about our parents, there are some cases where they're very toxic relationships. I'm not talking about that. If you think about our parents, when they just saw a picture of each other, but they made it work and they still loved each other. So sometimes, even like, I put this picture up because nowadays, even Amritaris are creating this airy fairy tale about what marriage should be. I'm not against photo shoots or anything. We got a photo shoot done, yeah? It was in like Botanical Gardens, it was nice. But it was respectful. There are people like holding each other in places they shouldn't be, just too much. And what that does is, again, unfortunately, especially for the bibiyan, if there's a Amritari bibi that is acting a certain way with her husband, now all the younger bibiyan are looking at as a role model, thinking, well, I need to be deeply in love with this guy, I need to be extravagant, I need to be doing date nights, all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying don't go on date nights, we go on date nights, yeah? Mr. Singh's or whatever. What I'm saying is, it creates a very problematic approach, because with all of that airy-fairy, dovey-fovey business, the root of it is find your life partner, date, DM each other. And then the bibi is worrying, thinking, man, everyone else is getting married, everyone else has got this lovely relationship. And then you get stressed, and then you think, I need to go and find someone now. And then you put yourself in a problematic position that you don't need to be in because of all these external factors that are putting pressure on you. So if you're married as an Amritari, it's very important that you stay modest in your relationship as well, especially on social media, because that's having a super detrimental effect on young Amritaris or young Sikhs that think marriage should be like this. It's quite important. And what you'll find is the most peaceful marriages are people that don't talk about them. People don't brag about them. Couples that don't even have Instagram. They're the most peaceful marriages, from what I've found. Yes, Benji.
According to Sikhi, is getting married a requirement to live a good and fulfilled life?
It's the recommended route. It's called Gurist Jivan. It's the recommended route. But for whatever reason, if someone isn't, that doesn't mean you're limited. But the recommended route is Gurist Jivan, which is the life of a householder with a family. Hanji. I've talked about Guru Sikhs on social media. And I would definitely say that in terms of, I'll share our example. People have heard it before, so we're past that point anyways. Her family is old school. Like, dad is Gyaniji from the Gurdwara, Gyaniji Mandeep Singh. Yeah, he's been head grantee here for like 30 years. So I was like, pressure. It was a political move, me marrying into the family. I'm just trying to save myself. But for example, about this whole airy-fairy, I need to feel a feeling, right? It's very important we tell this to people that sometimes you don't feel a feeling. Like, I had only known Baljit for like 5 months maybe. I didn't know her in and out. Like, were we deeply in love? No. All due respect. We hardly knew, we knew each other. We knew we were compatible. But it wasn't like how the films make out or some people make out on their Instagram. So what happened? The family came over and our families met, really nice, had chole bhature, all good. And then I thought, Charlie, this is the stage one, yeah? The families met, maybe we'll reconvene in a week or so. That evening, Sunday night, the vachola rings. He's like, so what do you think? I said, yeah, it was nice, it was a good time. Then he's like, no, so you get married or what? I said, bro, what do you mean? Like, what the hell? I've come from a non-Sikhi background where bande date and all that kind of stuff, right? So this was alien to me. I was like, bro, what do you mean? And he's like, the family are asking, they need an answer by tomorrow. I'm like, bro, this is mad. Like, this is out of my pay grade here. This is madness. And he's like, bro, you need to think about it. Like, we ain't got no time to waste. I'm there stressing, yeah. So literally, I just say, Guru Sahib, if I'm meant to get married to her, if I'm not meant to get married to her, you need to tell me by tomorrow morning. Literally, that was my ardas, no joke. And I'm praying I have some crazy dream or something, yeah. I don't even remember my dream that night. I get up and I'm like, crap, nothing's happened. I was like, everything seems good, everything seems positive. I was like, so I've got to go with it now. That's how I got married. That's how we got married. But then, after, so much fell into place that I didn't know beforehand. There was just so many signs. I was like, Marad, why can't you give me this beforehand? But a lot of people feel you need to have, you need to be love struck, or you need to be, obviously we were fond of each other. We thought, you know what, this person's a great person. I'm not saying we were like, ugh, or anything. It wasn't like that, But it wasn't this kind of Hollywood, or the Hollywood that some Guru Sikhs try and put out on Instagram. It wasn't that at all. It was a respectable, logical decision, which is absolutely fine, and which is how it normally is. So it's important that we understand that and not get that twisted, because some people will have all the right signs, they have a vichwala involved, but then their friend might be like, oh, don't you feel anything for them? And then they put shanka in their mind, and then they just think, actually, I should be feeling some sort of way. If I'm not, there's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. Love and a relationship takes years to build. It takes time to build. It takes experience to build. You know? So it's important that we get away from that narrative because it's doing a lot of harm. And then just on dating and stuff, Guru Sahib says that Je lakh istriya bhog kar hai navkhand raj kamahe. If someone, lakh, hundreds of thousands istriyan, women, if a raja, if a king, bhog, has sexual pleasure, has a relationship with hundreds of thousands of women, navkhand raj kamahe, has a kingdom over every corner of the earth. Bir Satguru sukh na pawahi. He can have all of this, फिर भी सदगुरु तो बिना सुख नहीं मिलना. फिर जोड़ नहीं पाए. Look at people like Genghis Khan. It's said that, I don't know, a stupid amount of, a crazy percentage, is it like a third of the world's population can trace their roots back to him? Okay, it's probably not a third, but it's quite a significant percentage, right? Because he had that many relationships with women. Look at Alexander the Great, how much he conquered. Look at all of these Raja, look at politicians of today's world. Hana? They're doing this really, Hana? There's cheating on their wives, there's rape allegations, there's doing anything they can to become members of parliament or PMs. By the end of it, they're all still dukhi. So in the same way, in our teens especially, we think me getting in a relationship will solve my problems. It won't. Hana? It really won't. And Guru Sahib gives the answer here as well. And sometimes we think getting married will solve my problems. And remember, there's she's a Bobby of mine. When I was looking to get married, she summed it up perfectly for me. She said, you should not get married with the expectation of sharing your problems with people. Hana? You shouldn't get married to think this person's going to solve my problems. That's an unfair expectation. That's going to lead to problems itself. And you should go in being stable and looking to share your life with them, not getting married to hopefully find a solution. Obviously, there will be things you complement each other with, but quite often people get married to think, man, this is wrong with me, this is wrong with me. Hopefully, if I get married, it gets sorted. That's not fair on the other person either. Obviously, we all have our demerits and our bad habits, but just something to be mindful of. So just finishing off, a few people have asked about, so that's relationships. Has anyone any further questions on relationships? Otherwise, I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to cut it here. And then if anyone wants to carry on for the Q&A, we can go for another, till about 9:15. But I will just pause it there. No? I'm going to leave you with one Sakhi about marriage, actually. Sanjay Singh's marriage. And what they were like on their wedding day. So their nephew, Jasbir Singh, in their book about Sanjay Singh, he described Sanjay Singh's wedding day. So at that point, Sanjay Singh had a lot of Nitnem. They would read a lot of Parchar every day. And they were really they looked really sad on their wedding day. And everyone's like, Nuki ho gaya, is his wedding day, why does he look so miserable for? And then in the afternoon, he was really happy. And then his nephew, Jasbir Singh, said, Chacha ji, hun khush ho gaye, ki galla? And he said, I was worried because my wedding day today, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do my Nitnem, my extra part, the 100 or so Japji Sahibs I do. But he goes, Mare di kirpa naal oh bhi ho gaya, now I'm happy. So he wasn't happy about the fact it was his wedding day. He was happy about the fact that he got his part done. And I appreciate it. That's a lot for people to take in. But that's where we want to be at. And then because of a miscommunication with the Vajullah, he didn't realize that his wife was an Amritari. And they got married, and he said, you're not allowed in my house until you take Amrit. So then he did Amrit Sanchar, and then once she took Amrit, he brought her in. So Sikhi first, marriage second, which is a very easy thing to say, very hard thing to do. Now I'm not all saying we're going to be at that level. My point is, look at where their priorities were, and look as a result what their life led to. Someone that will be talked about in the books of history for forever to come. And how that absorbs in our own lives, we can think about our own situations as well. What we're putting first. Obviously, it doesn't have to be extreme as that. Might be. But again, if we don't know what the ideal is, we'll never hit it anyways. So I'll finish off with that. In summary, dating is a waste of time. Time's valuable. Use it on your education, use it on your Sikhi, use it on your physical health as well, and your mental health. And when you're ready, don't be a hero on Instagram or Snapchat. Get a visual involved. Not someone in your class. Yeah. Someone Siana, someone that's ideally married, and someone that's trusted. Keep things in the clear and follow through. And in terms of sangat, if you're trying to, no matter where you are, whether you are Amritari, not Amritari, whether you have your case, you don't keep case, doesn't matter. We're all trying to steady out. If you're in this room, basically you want to make a positive impact on your life, right? Doesn't matter where you're at in your Sikhi journey at the moment. If you're trying to make a positive impact on your life, then we're all of the same mindset. I don't want anything to be of detriment to that. Any space or sangat that does that, we all need to start thinking about and making decisions about, according to what we've heard from Gurdwara. And be 100% clear on the fact that even if we think it's not going to affect us, Gurdwara has told us it will. And we've given you examples, and you can think of just examples in your own life, where eventually the sangat has chipped away at someone, and before they know it, they might be transformed into an amazing person, or they might have gone down the wrong path. Could go both ways. So think about where you want to expose yourself to, the positive or the negative. And as a result, let your actions dictate that path as well. TWGC, so I'm going to stop now in case anyone wants to leave. And then, there's a few questions, I'll start answering them. And if anyone has any questions, you can join in with the Q&A. TWGC, forgive me for any mistakes. Please let us know your feedback. And actually, just before everyone leaves, I've got a short PowerPoint I need to share with everyone. It's just an update on what Basis of Sikhi is up to. So it'll just be another 2 minutes. But the Sangat have really appreciated this. So with Guru Sahib's Kirpa, we're starting a campaign to fund a Parchar. And over the last year, there's been some crazy movement within Basics and the charity. And we've taken on 3 new full-time Parchariks within the UK. Sorry, 2 in the UK and 1 in Malaysia as well. So we just wanted to give you an update as to what's been happening and let you know about the support we need. So you'll all know what the mission is of Basics, and these are just a few stats. Over 750 talks delivered annually, 3,000 videos, languages, 13 languages for content, and the stats go on. These are a few of our projects that we're involved in, not just Basics of Sikhi, but the other branches. Regular talks that are happening in London, East and West, and as you know here, we have the weekly talks in English, which is the middle one. There's a monthly one at Somerset Gurdwara, which I think Bhai Mandeep Singh puts the poster in for anyways. If you're not in the group, please let Bhai Mandeep Singh know. There's a community group where you can... A lot of people asking, how do I find good sangat? Literally, this is the advert right now, right? Yeah, you just go to these places, you'll be all right, literally. Internationally, we've got a huge team in North America, and as I've mentioned, in Asia as well. We have Australia and Malaysia and Singapore with Guru Sahib's Kirpa. And also now in Africa and Kenya, we had a Parcharik in Tanzania last week doing a camp, Maharaj Kirpa. So there's some crazy stuff going on. We've got a huge call out going for Diwali, where we want people to set up a stall so that what access you have to Sikhi now through these talks, you can share that and be that access point for other people. And Diwali is important, or Bandi Show is important, because on those days, people that would normally never come to the Gurdwara come. So you could be that bridge that actually gets them thinking about Sikhi and maybe welcome them to this Thursday talk or the monthly demands. And you might actually have the chance to impact someone's life. I remember one of the first points I found out about Basic Sikhi was through a stall. So if anyone would like to get involved, please speak to Bhai Mandeep Singh. There's a QR code you can scan, and there's going to be a training session. It doesn't matter where you are on your Sikhi journey. There's a leaflet. You're literally going to show some love to people, explain what Bandi Shod is, which is all written in the leaflet, and then recommend them to come to other spaces. That's literally it. You know? So it doesn't matter where you're at in your Sikhi journey. There's a QR code that Bhai Mandeep Singh will share later. We've recently started the anti-conversion course. It's happened twice now with the Guru Sahib's Kirpa. A huge war on misinformation about Sikhi is being done, especially, unfortunately, within the UK by a certain group of people that are normally from Pakistani or Muslim background. That's not me being racist or being discriminatory. This is what the facts have shown. And again, that's not me saying all Muslims or Pakistanis are bad. Of course they're not. But if there's a particular problem coming from a particular group of people, we have to address that with no emotion attached. So we've been delivering that across the country, and hopefully there'll be one in G&G soon. And the new Parcharaks, so we've had Bhai Mandeep Singh, who has been leading the Case Sambal workshop, the Sun Saki series, and has been involved in a lot of things. There's a few instances of where he's been doing the workshops, which is anti-bullying seminar. He even went to Malaysia and recently Australia and Canada to deliver it as well. Bhai Hukum Singh, who has been doing a lot of talks, especially in corporate spaces, which has been amazing to teach people about Sikhi in those spaces, and General Katha as well. And Bhai Palwinder Singh, who's based in Malaysia, who you can see has been involved in quite a lot of events over the past year as well. So we've taken on full 3-time Parcharaks. And our aim now is to raise £10,000 in direct debits per month. Now what that will do is allow us to sustain these Parcharaks, develop stronger teams around them. Because with one Parcharak, you have a HR manager, you have a systems manager, you have an events coordinator, you have an editor. There's a huge ecosystem of people that you don't realize. So what this will allow us to do is raise the level at which we're operating, but also open more pathways for more Parcharaks in the future as well. Now what that means in terms of you individually, you can see the breakdown. That's £25 a month for 400 people. There's probably 30, 40 people in here. Now £25 a month, I don't know everyone's financial situation, but generally, that's not a lot. That's £6 a week. $6.25. We had a milkshake today, it cost $5.70. Madness. Cut out one milkshake a week, cut out your Starbucks a week, you could actually fund a month to get a new Parcharak. And if you have a bit more this one, we should all be given this one anyway, so 10% of your earnings should be going straight back into the punt. That only means £50 for 200 people. Most iPhone contracts cost more than £50. So I'm going to guilt trip you all now and say, what's more important, the punt or your iPhone? I'll let you answer that question. So just whilst we break off, I'm going to leave this QR code up. And my binti is, if you can support, please support. You'll need to make an account with Just Giving. It takes 2 minutes to set up. But whilst people are leaving now and getting ready for the Q&A, I'm going to leave that QR code up because we can, with Guru Sahib's Kirpa, this organization can go as far as the Sangat wants. And we do need sevadars in terms of your skills, your time, but we also need it in terms of money as well. So in Maharaj's Kirpa, great things happening. We want even greater things to happen, and we need your support. So I'm going to leave that up. Pull Chukmaaf for any mistakes throughout the talk. We're going to have a 2-minute break, and then we'll go on to some Q&A where people can just openly ask questions as well if you want. WhyGuru Ji Ka Khalsa, WhyGuru Ji Ki Fateh. If anyone is leaving and you'd like to be in the WhatsApp group to hear about the events that are happening, please see Babin Singh in the corner. Oh, good question. Again, there will be an option to give a one-off payment. That is great, but for us to be able to forecast, I'm proper pushing this now, yeah? I have to though, have to. To be able to, for us to sustainably forecast for the next year and so, it is the direct debits that really mean a lot. So please add gift aid on if you can as well.